strung out on separate semaphore connections across the Midlands. You will see details of that later. They were using pointers which were about 20 foot long. Our simulation today is using pointers of about 5 foot, so about a quarter of the height of those that were used in 1804. But in place of the telescope-based viewing of those semaphores, we are using the 21st century technology of zoom to simulate what would have been very close to the telescopic view of that semaphore when it's communicating. Just to say, we do have challenges here. Funnily enough, my biggest challenge here is in regard to the 21st century communications component, because the bandwidth speed available here is not that very impressive outside the Royal Hospital in Kilmainham, but hopefully we'll have sufficient bandwidth to complete the demonstration. If it drops out or you drop out, please join back into the presentation using the same link and you should get straight back in. Just to note also that the meeting, this meeting is now being recorded just for the use of the Maria Edgeworth Centre in Edgeworthstown in Longford and the Galway Insight Centre in Galway City. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over and ask Mairead Ní Chonghaile to say a few words on the heritage side, because this is part of the start of Heritage Week. So over to you in the Maria Edgeworth Centre in Longford.
Thank you very much. Sorry, where do I address? Okay, thank you. Do you mind if I start? Because I have to try and address both people. Thank you very much. I'll try not to take up too much of your screen. So, Ziri, Horda, and Shaw and Yov, Wostrim, August, Shuvalogatha, and Taft, Stachlin, Erin Welcome today, ladies and gentlemen, everyone here in Edgeworthstown, and to all of our friends joining in using the modern marvel of the internet, which I'm sure Richard Lovell Edgeworth would have used to its absolute maximum, if not be one of the pioneers, taking that away from Al Gore famously. Thank you all again for this, and particularly I would like to thank the Maria Edgeworth Centre and Matt Farrell, and of course Ray Jordan, for devising, developing and implementing this remarkable modern re-experiment. While we know a lot about Semaphore and the Napoleonic uses of it in the Napoleonic and Peninsular Wars, Richard Lovell Edgeworth himself claimed to have been the inventor of the optical telegraph system, using flags or similar visual aids to communicate over long distances. He thought of it in the 1860s. I'm sure Ray will have, or Matt will have more to say. We know that he tried it again in the 1790s, and between 1794 and 1804, one big thing happened in Ireland, which of course was the 1798 rebellion. And after that, they felt that while there was coastal signals on watchtowers around the coast, he felt that really an inland system to get messages from the coast, particularly back to Dublin, was incredibly important. And so, working with his brother-in-law, one of many, Francis Beaufort, they developed and devised and got support from the then Lord Lieutenant Hardwick. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. And when I first heard about the Semaphore system that Matt told me about many years ago, I was fascinated by it, and I was always wanting to see how that would work. And thankfully, between Matt and Ray, they did a kind of a proof of concept last year for just after Heritage Week between here and Tullynally. And then when we saw that the theme of this year's National Heritage Week is communications and networks, we thought, oh no, this is the perfect opportunity. So thankfully they jumped on board, and with the support of the Heritage Council, thankfully, they have provided funding for us to undertake this experiment and to have you all here today to celebrate National Heritage Week, one of the first events for National Heritage Week 2024. And I wish you all the very best of luck and fair winds for your messages from Dublin to Galway. Gurb Mahagi.
Míle maithagat as Longford and Shin Mairead. Agus Anish, Matt Farrell is going to speak now. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, on behalf of all the dedicated people at the Mariah Edgeworth Centre in Edgeworthstown, County Longford, I would just like to welcome you all here today, and especially to all those joining from online. We have people from the US, UK, Malta, Austria, and Asia. As you know, we work to promote the legacy of the remarkable Edgeworth family who contributed so much to Ireland in the fields of education, literature, science, engineering, and politics. This project, which Ray will explain to you later, is one of the ways we promote their legacy. We are only able to do this project with the support of so many people, including Longford County Council, Longford Library and Archive and Heritage Services, and the Heritage Council of Ireland, who are very much supporting this project. I'd like to say a special thanks to the staff at IMA and the OPW and the Computer and Communications Museum of Ireland in Galway for giving so generously of their time and facilities to make this happen. This project fits so well, as Mairead said, with the Heritage Council's Heritage Week theme of connections, roots, and networks. There is no other family that had such a wide international network, who connected so well and who traveled so many routes. Currently, we have the Edgeworth Digital Network, which is a worldwide network of academics and interested people in the fields that the Edgeworths followed. We have gained so much knowledge while working on this project, and it will not end today. Dr. Joanna Wharton will continue the work on the subject, and she may say a few words on this later. And we propose to bring this to all the schools along the Edgeworth telegraphic route when they reopen in September. And we hope that they will take on projects, maybe talking to grandparents or so, and see if there's any folklore associated with towers or signalling in their area. This project came about as the dream of one man, Ray Jordan. At over 90 years of age, he is still so interested in the world around us. And he is so lucky to have a family who are making sure this little dream comes true for him. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Matt, and for all your great works. And now, Anish Tommy de Dul, Shias Gadi Kunde na Galiva, August, another great pioneer of communications, Brendan Smith. So just over to you there, Brendan, say a few words from the County Galway. And while they're just getting the mute button sorted out there, I'll just say that coming up after that, we are going to have a presentation from Ray Jordan. So we're just trying to get sound sorted there so we can get output from Galway Insight Centre. Jesus Christ. Okay, Brendan, I tell you, we can press on here while you're sorting out the muting and unmuting issue on that machine. As I say, I had no concerns about the 19th century communications on this project. It was the 21st century component that was likely to cause trouble, and that's exactly what it has. So that's quite typical of modern technology, but Insight will rejoin. So I'm now going to press on to the next item, which is presentation, a PowerPoint presentation I'm going to run now from Ray Jordan. So just bear with me for a couple of seconds.
Agwini Ushla, I would like to introduce you to Richard Lovell Edgeworth, a man with a dream. His dream was to use a semaphore system he had invented to connect Dublin and Galway. His main reason was he believed if Napoleon were to attack, he would do so on the west coast, and 1798 proved him right. He also realized the system could have a beneficial side through commerce to the west. I would also like to introduce you to two members of his team. His daughter Maria, who was already a well-known author in the year of the start of our story, which was 1794. Together they started on a series of demonstrations before influential people. The first such was from the manor at Edgeworthstown, his home, to Tullynally Castle, the home of Lord Longford, and this they did in 1794. It took, however, 10 years before the government decided to finance the setting up of the link. However, in 1795, I would like also to mention his two sons demonstrated his system between Donaghadee and Portpatrick in Scotland. I believe this could very well be a world first between two countries separated by water. Now, if I may, I would like to introduce you to the third member of his team. I refer to Francis Beaufort, a native of Navan, to whom he was also related by marriage. Francis, in his turn, was famous in naval matters and had invented the Beaufort wind scale, still in use today in weather forecasts. On a personal level, however, Richard was also a very honourable man and brave man, because he voted against the Act of Union in 1800 and said, when asked why he did that, he said that those he represented wanted him to vote that way. Let us now move on to how his system of sending 4-digit codes had evolved, and how the codes were stored and their meanings were then retrieved. With this slide, I would like to explain the logic behind Richard's concept of a semaphore system. It is based on the fact that human beings are quite good at recognizing angles. An example of this inbuilt talent would be the desire in most of us to straighten pictures on a wall, which is all right so long as it's your picture on your wall. To illustrate the point, I set up a small semaphore at home, hence the floral background, by which to show you how the digits 0 and 1 to 7 are portrayed. This will allow you more easily to follow the story. The vertical or home position is designated 0. Every 45 degrees after that equates to a digit. See 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and back to 0. In this slide you can see that Richard's vocabulary book consisted of 7 different sections, and his idea was that actually all the messages that you could send or all the messages you could receive would actually be held in a book, and this book he called a vocabulary. It would be held at either end of the link. So, for instance, there would be one held in Dublin, and there would also be one held in Galway. Now, he believed that that was a clever way to do things, and in fact, on one occasion he reasoned that he called his book a machine. But more about that. At this time, unfortunately, I have not been able to gain access to the vocabulary in the National Library because it's with the conservationists. So, from what I've read, I've reached certain conclusions. So let's have a brief look at how the messages were stored and retrieved. Let's take a message we would like to send to Galway. What is your weather like today? Let us allocate the code 2345 to that perennial question and then see where that takes us. From this slide you can see that the digit 2 will actually select section 2, And in section 2 then, the next digit 3, will select page 3 of the 7 pages in that section. Then the last 2 digits, 45, will select message 45 out of the possible, I think, 77 messages that could have been on that in that section. So there we are. We select digit 2, gets us into section 2. Page 3 gets us to a possible 77 answers, and then 45 selects what is your weather like today in Galway. That's my impression of how the system actually worked, and it makes a certain amount of sense. In this slide, you can see we had decided to use the iPhones and the web as a means of conveying the semaphore image, rather than using telescopes and physical repeaters. The only difference, as I saw it, was we substituted one observing device for another. We used iPhones instead of telescopes. The semaphores were still the same. This, of course, was a great saving in project costs, because we did not need to survey for and construct and staff many intermediate semaphores. In fact, it had a hidden bonus in that we were able to include many observation points. In the case of phase 1 of the project, which was Edgeworthstown to Tullinally, we had observers of the event from as far apart as Utah in the United States, several in Ireland and England, Malta and Tokyo. I really think Richard would have approved. In this slide, you can see the timber work that was done in order to construct our semaphores. This was at a relatively early stage in their manufacture. We thought it best to try and use as much as possible of the same materials as might have been available in an estate carpenter's shop in the 1700s to construct the semaphore. John searched high and low for such as furniture legs and an old table, in order to be as close to what Richard would have used as possible. I think when you see the finished article, you will agree he did a pretty good job. This is a photograph now of myself holding one of the semaphores, and the semaphore itself is showing digit 1. Digit 1. We now come to the very important slide, which shows where we believe the semaphore repeater stations were located between Dublin, Kilmainham and William Street, Galway. There is some doubt as to whether Cartron was used in that link, and so I have excluded it. First repeater was Castleknock, then Kappa, then Shane, then Knockdrin, then Arden, then Tillamook, then Knockdominey, then Listiller, then Mackney, then Killarany, then Derrydonnell, and the last repeater was Merlin, and finally the terminal was at William Street. I think it worth noting that all of the training for the telegraphers would have been carried out in Edgeworthstown because it was quite complex, and mistakes had to be avoided at all costs. It is interesting to note that Francis Beaufort asked if the Galway terminal was above the smoke level. And also, one of the 4-digit messages asks, "Is there smoke?" This points to the fact that even back then there was an issue with smoke pollution in our bigger towns. Now that today we are actually simulating that historic signalling of 1804 between Dublin and Galway by means of actual miniaturized versions of the Edgeworth semaphore, I would like to say that perhaps we can look and celebrate that event in another completely different way. After our successful Edgeworthstown to Tullinally event in September 2023, Dr. Joanna Wharton, who had kept a scholarly eye on us in the early phases of the project, came up with the suggestion that, after seeing the flow of signals, she thought it had a rhythmic feel to it. The passing of signals back and forth might well be the inspiration for a dance routine. I, being a man, immediately thought of 12 lovely ballerinas passing messages back and forth between two male dancers. My granddaughter Emily suggested that perhaps it might be choreographed for a contemporary dance troupe. We would love to hear of any suggestions along those lines. In this slide, I like to think I both pose and answer the question as to how quickly a message could be sent and a reply received between Dublin and Galway in the year 1804. My main problem was in deciding how fast and for how long a horse might be expected to gallop. I then thought of the Pony Express in the United States, and as they had a great number of stages, I felt their average figure of 12 miles per hour for an hour would be a good yardstick. Based on that figure, I believe 10 to 12 hours one way would be a reasonable estimate to cover the Dublin to Galway distance. Richard's telegraph was able to deliver a message in an amazing 8 minutes and have a response in 20. You don't have to be a tactician to see the huge benefit that brings. I'm sure Richard and Francis were very pleased with that result and could have reasonably expected ongoing usage, if not expansion, of their system. However, that was not to be, as the threat of a Napoleonic invasion diminished and the project was abandoned. I am taking the liberty of showing you the first message we will send today to Galway, and which Galway will read back. The message will be allocated the code 1234, and so will be recovered from Galway's copy of the vocabulary by the following method. Digit 1 will point to section 1 of a possible 7 sections. Digit 2 will point to page 2 of a possible 7 pages. Digits 34 will then point to message 34 of a possible 77 on that page. I think you will agree this is very machine-like in that you input numbers and get out an answer. I also referred in an earlier slide to the effects a mistake can have when dealing with codes. During World War II, Alan Turing and his team in Bletchley were trying to crack the Enigma code used by the Germans to direct the submarine fleet in the Atlantic. This was proving to be extremely difficult until by chance they found out that one particular German telegraphist always signed off his normal traffic with Heil Hitler. They reasoned he might do the same when sending his Enigma messages. They were right, and he did end his Enigma messages with Heil Hitler, and this allowed for the code to be broken. It is estimated this caused the shortening of the war by up to 1.5 years. What a saving that meant in human misery and human lives.
Okay, thank you, Ray. And I'll just stop sharing that now. And it was very interesting. And I think one of the particularly interesting elements of it from that presentation is, and is visible in the booklet produced by the Maria Edgeworth Centre, one of the highest points in Meath, Kappa, which you saw there on the presentation. to this day uses communications components. Masts are attached to the top of the old tower in Kappa. So the high ground always counts, as we know. Agus Nish, we're going to try again. Arish, Dolarash Gadi, Kundin Nagaliva, and Wilsh's Abata come online to us there now in Galway. If we can see if you can speak to us there, just to see if we can hear from Brendan. Okay, we obviously have sound issues down there in Galway. We have the presentation PC there from Galway. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, Galway, can you try and unmute that one there, please?
Yep, Brendan is just joining us now, so he's
excellent. Great, we have Galway online now.
Yep.
Excellent. So, Brendan, over to you for a couple of focal that I have.
Great stuff, and apologies for that technical error earlier, but let's be honest about it. That's part of the nature of technology, innovative technology, pioneering technology. So we think you might have seen that program earlier in the week about the cable that changed the world. You know, it took years. There was many false starts before it happened in 1866. And I'd like to give due recognition to two of my colleagues here, Liam and Frank McCurry. So when we go in to have a look at the Computer Museum later, we can see right back to Marconi and earlier in terms of how Ireland played a key part in the history of communications. It was in 1866 we had that connection between Valentia Island and Newfoundland. In 1907 we had the first regular connection over the airwaves between Marconi Station in Ballyconneely at the west coast of Galway and into the Americas. So we were very much part of that. And fast forward to 1977 or 71, we have one of my colleagues here from Liam Ferry, the second largest computer company in the world, set up their first operations here in Galway, and it changed the face of Ireland economically. And it's so good. We feel so, how would I say, privileged to be here today to see for the first time since 1805 the Semaphore connection between Galway City on the west coast to Dublin on the east coast. So this is very much something that most of us knew nothing about, that communications long distance really didn't start in 1866. It actually goes further back in time, and Galway and Ireland has played a prominent part. So I'd like to thank everybody, Ken and John and everybody else that played a part in making this happen. And what we're trying to do in Galway here at Insight, and I'm the Education Public Engagement Manager and also the curator of the Computer and Communications Museum, and two of my colleagues said Liam and Frank are here, is that we're trying to develop this place as a digital hub, electronic hub, an electrical hub, and we encourage groups to start using these facilities that we have here, like the conference room and so forth, and we'd like you to have meetings here. So 2 weeks ago we had a gathering of Amiga people. This is where Coder Dojo started in the west of Ireland here back in 2012, and what you're doing today is very much part of that type of ethos itself. So what you did today as well is amazing. To think that we have done something in Galway today that hasn't happened since 1805, and that is fantastic. So a big bula bus, as we say, Oscuelga, to you all for the great work that you've undertaken, and we're so honoured to be part of that. So mille mahagat. Thank you.
Mahagat, Brendan, Oscayev, thank you very much for that. Very interesting, and you're quite correct. Computers and communications have done so much for this country. So we're now going to press on. We're actually bang on time. We were due to get this point at 14:30 hours, so we're only about a minute behind time. So I just asked now the semaphore operators if you can just go to the semaphores, and Catherine, if you can go to that PC there that Brendan was just at, where you will be in a position to hopefully read the message sent down to Galway. So I shall now, while you're getting positioned there, Catherine, and the semaphore is getting ready. And Catherine, I just ask if you can, when you're reading the message, if you can sit close to the PC so we can hear it quite clearly. I need to spotlight the semaphores now. Just bear with me 1 second.
Okay, Ken, it's Jack has done it.
Oh, Jack is doing it. Okay, Jack. Okay, Jack. And if you're doing that, Jack, I just want you to speak clearly into the mic because our sound isn't that hot here in the Royal Hospital. So we're about to do the simulation now. We have the semaphores are spotlighted. We have Joanne in Galway and we have Gordon in Dublin here. So this is the first test of a descending of the semaphores officially since 1804. So in line with the original protocols to manage the equivalent of the digital handshake of today, I would just ask the Dublin semaphore operator if you can swing your semaphore at 3 clockwise movements, please. And Galway, if you've seen that, you will go anti-clockwise 3 movements to establish the handshake. That's excellent. So that's roughly equivalent to the digital handshakes, almost a cyclic redundancy check of the 80s and 90s in computer communications. So I will now ask the Dublin operator, please, to set your first digit. Okay, so the digit 1 has been sent and acknowledged by Galway. Next digit, please, Dublin. You come around to top dead center to reset to 0. Acknowledged by Galway. Second digit is 2, and 2 has been acknowledged. And rotate around again to top, please. Next component. The number 3 has been sent and acknowledged by Galway. Back to the end of that digit transmission and the final digit. 4 sent by Dublin. Confirmed by Galway. Dublin has reset to 0. And he is now vibrating at the top of 0. So that means the end of message. So Dublin has sent to Galway the message 1, 2, 3, 4. So Galway, can I ask you to read the content of that message, please?
To Edgeworth telegraphers of 18th and 19th centuries from Edgeworth telegraphers of 21st century, greetings. We, who thanks to advances in communication science, can see the Galway semaphore from our station in the Royal Hospital, Kilmainham and vice versa. We do particularly remember and honour you who staffed the 12 repeater stations along the route from Kilmainham to Galway in 1804. Castleknock, Kappa, Shane, Knockdrin, Arden, Teenamuck, Knockdomini, Listiller, Mackney, Killareeny, Derrydonnell, Merlin, William Street Terminal. I now ask you 21st century telegraphers to stand by for the receipt and transmission of signals between our 2 cities.
Excellent. Thank you, Galway. So that is the first official message sent from Dublin to Galway since 1804 and read out there in the Insight Centre in Galway. Thank you so much. Okay, the second message that we're going to send now is a message also from Dublin to Galway. So we don't have to do the 360-degree rotations because the handshake is established. So for message number 2, please, can you set your first digit, please? That's number 3. Confirmed by Galway. Number 4. Next. Four has been received. Next digit from Dublin. Number 5 has been transmitted. Confirmed by Galway. And final digit of this message. And 6. And back to center, and Dublin confirming that that is the end of the transmission, confirmed by Galway as well. So message number 2 has been sent from Dublin to Galway. So can I ask Galway, can you read out message 3, 4, 5, 6 from the library?
By arms and science, Hardwick guards a throne, and with the nation's glory blends his own.
Okay, thank you. And that has a historical context, which Joanna might say a word about that in a couple of minutes in her presentation. So that was the second message. The third out of 6 messages, this one is going to be transmitted from Galway to Dublin. So Galway, I'd ask you to send your first digit of the third message, please. That's number 5. Yeah, second one. Yeah, that's confirmed. Next message digit. That's 4 being sent by Galway. Confirmed in Dublin. Next digit from Galway. That's digit 3. Received by Dublin. And you might see a slight delay there if we just wait there. That's it. And 2. Confirmed by Dublin. And Galway is saying that's the end of that message. So that is message 5432. First message sent from Galway to Dublin since 1804. So Ray Jordan will read the contents of that message, please.
Message 5432 reads, Galway County Council Heritage Office is delighted to support and promote the Edgeworth Semaphore reenactment, which allows us to celebrate our rich communications heritage, while at the same time fostering greater links and understanding of this lesser known aspect of our heritage.
Excellent, nice message that. And so the 4th out of our 6 messages is going to be sent from Dublin. So Dublin, if you can send your first digit component, please. That's a 5. That's confirmed by Galway, second digit. Also a 5. Confirmed received by Galway. Next digit. 3. Confirmed by Galway. And the final digit from that message. Number 2. Confirmed by Galway. And Dublin vibrating to confirm that's the end of message. So that is message code 5532 sent from Dublin to Galway. Galway, can you read what the library book tells you is message 5532, please?
Longford County Council is delighted to support this communication experiment via our technological heritage.
Excellent. So that's our message in from Longford County Council, which plays a big role in this as it all emanated out of Edgeworthstown in County Longford. Second last message now is going to be sent from Galway Godi Dublin, or Bolia Atlia, I should be saying, and Galway to Dublin, message number 5. So Galway, can you send your first message or component, please? That's number 6. Confirmed by Dublin. Next digit, please, Galway. 1. Confirmed by Dublin. I'm just waiting for the internet to come through there now. We're a bit frozen there. 7 is the next one. Dublin, can you see that? You can. And last digit, please. It's number 4. And can you see that? Thank you. And Galway now confirming that that is the last digit in that message, which is 6174. I'll ask Ray Jordan to read that, please.
Message 6174 reads, greetings from all in Galway at the Insight Centre for Data Analytics. We are looking forward to visiting the excellent Computer and Communications Museum later today on completion of the optical telegraph simulation.
Okay, thank you indeed. So quite a historical spot down there in Galway, sending that message, and location I'd love to visit soon. Well worth a visit. So the very last message is going to be sent from Dublin to Galway, and I'll just ask Gordon if you can send from Dublin the first digit, please. That's a 7. That's confirmed by Galway. Next digit, please. That's the 6. Galway has confirmed. Next digit, please, Dublin. That's the 5. Confirmed by Galway. And the final digit from Dublin, please. That is the digit 4. Confirmed received by Galway. Dublin, is that the end of your message? It's confirmed the end of the message, and that's our last message sent, and that is message 7654. Jack, over to you in Galway, if you can read that one, please.
Like our comrades of the 19th century, the time has now come for us to put away our semaphores and silently steal away. Thank you all for making it possible for me to realize a dream of long ago. Ray Jordan.
Okay, so that's from Ray, the inventor of the whole concept here of this, together with Matt, made it happen. So thank you very much for that simulation. Many thanks to the OPW for allowing us to use this facility here and at IMA. And also for Galway Insight and the Computer and Communications Museum. I'm just going to hand over now to a person who has great significant knowledge of all of this from a historical perspective, Dr. Joanna Wharton from the University of York, but also of UCC. So I'll hand over to you to say a few words, please, Joanna.
Thank you, Ken, and many congratulations to Ray and Matt and the whole team on this remarkable achievement. I feel very honoured to be part of this occasion. So it's incredibly exciting for me to see the telegraph in action today after many years of looking for it in books and dusty archives. This moment has really brought history to life in a way that written words can never fully capture. As Matt mentioned, I'm due to start a research project on UCC on the telegraph, and I hope to be able to share the results, including an online map and an exhibition before very long, and I'll be working with the Mariah Edgeworth Centre on that. So my own fascination with this technology came about through my research on Mariah Edgeworth, who fictionalised the telegraph in some of her tales. So in one story in particular, a Cornish tin miner carries a telegraph to India, and that's a narrative that would later actually echo in reality when a man who worked on the telegraph in Ireland took Richard Lovell Edgeworth's design to Calcutta, where a series of machines were built for the East India Company. And remarkably, some of those towers are still standing today, and I hope to be able to visit them before too long. Mariah's involvement.
Joanna, I'm sorry to interrupt you there. Could you speak a bit closer and louder into the mic if you could for some of our recipients, if you can?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Maybe, hang on. Let me see if I can. Hello, is that better?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, just a bit closer.
Okay, sorry. I think I didn't have my microphone on. Sorry about that. Yeah, Mariah's involvement with the telegraph went beyond fiction as well. So in collaboration with her father, she wrote letters to the government and essays that publicised his invention. She even contributed to the creation of the telegraph software, the code book or the vocabulary, as it was called, and the vocabulary was dedicated to the Lord Lieutenant with the words spoken by the Telegraph's second message today, which was by arms and science, Hardwick guards the throne, and with a nation's glory blends his own. So it's brilliant to see that transmitted in your messages today. I'm just going to read now from a letter which illustrates Mariah's involvement and which also gives some insight into the struggles and the successes of Richard Lovell Edgeworth's projects. In January 1804, Elizabeth Waller, a relative of the Edgeworths, wrote that Mariah was, quote, suddenly lugged away by Papa to revise and correct the famous vocabulary. As she continues, the telegraphers have returned quite hearty and not a bit worse for their daily refrigeration on the bleak hills between Athlone and Galway. They have met with great hospitality everywhere and assistance wherever they wanted it. If the French will but be so kind to delay their visit for 10 days, the telegraphs will by that time be so far effective as to answer their purpose, though not quite complete. This is a fine, mild day, but cruelly anti-telegraphic. A dark snow is now showing. So despite the challenges, including the Irish weather, the telegraph line was completed and messages were transmitted at astonishing speeds. On the 5th of July, 1804, the Dublin Journal announced that 54 signals had actually been sent and received in 31 minutes. But not everyone was entirely pleased with the telegraphic establishment. In the spring of 1804, the Reverend Mr. Gwynn, whose land at Castleknock near Dublin hosted a telegraph station, he wrote to demand that the telegraph be immediately enclosed or walled off from the rest of his land. And he reported, and I quote, on Monday last, when Mr. Gwynn was from home, the conduct of the spectators, and I'm sorry to say of the men left to take care of the telegraph, was extremely indelicate. An immense crowd of men and women of all descriptions, tumbling and tossing and using the most indelicate language. So 220 years later, it seems that this crowd, thankfully, has far more decorum than the spectators at Castleknock. And I hope very much you're all enjoying some pro-telegraphic weather over there. Thank you again to Ray and to everyone involved in this simulation and celebration of this extraordinary piece of history.
Thanks so much, Joanna, and for your ongoing support and academic advice is invaluable to this project. Okay, we're just at a point now where we just might invite comments from a few other participants online. We have quite a few there online from as far away as the US. Also, I see Malta, and I also see Ramallah in the West Bank. And we would be delighted if Doha could say maybe a word to us from Ramallah. I know how difficult it is to get communications there, but can you hear us there all the way in the West Bank, Doha?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Doha, and I'm honored to join you today from Palestine. It's honestly a privilege to be a part of this event, exploring the rich cultural heritage of Ireland through the lens of the Edgeworth Telegraph. For me, learning about Ireland's history is very meaningful as a Palestinian, given the strong bond between our two peoples. And as someone who witnesses daily the impact of Ireland's support for Palestinians, being here feels like a way to give back by learning and celebrating with you. Thank you for having me and inviting me today.
Well, that is wonderful to hear from you. It really is. I think that's brought a smile to a lot of faces here to hear our friends from Palestine and from the West Bank. And I do know that we had an enthusiast that wanted to join us from Gaza, but could not get reliable Wi-Fi. And we wish her and her family well. She's a pharmacist now without a pharmacy. It is long gone now, but she did want to join us. I know that today, and unfortunately can't. But we send our best wishes to them all for a speedy end to what's happening and a peaceful future, we hope. So thank you so much for coming in there, Doug. I really appreciate that. I just noticed Des, Echo India 5 Golf Tango is there. I don't know, Des, if I just made it available there if you want to come online to us to say a word. But you've been a strong supporter of this concept here. You've been a great radio ham person from Galway for quite a while. And I know you're away at the moment, but can you hear us there, Des?
Yeah, can you hear me, Ken?
Perfectly, Des, perfectly. What part of Canada are you at the moment?
Oh, I'm in somewhere warm, close to the Mediterranean here at the minute. So,
yeah, well, it's a lot warmer than here. Yeah. So anyway, it's great to hear you, Des, and you're a great man, very fond of communications. Worked a lot with comms yourself and with UCG. And how did you find that simulation there today?
very interesting. So it's great to see it recreated in that way. Before you contacted me, Ken, I wasn't aware of this, the system historically, and like a lot of people, I kind of assumed that it all started with Marconi, and with Morse code. I suppose prior to that, like a lot of ham radio operators back in the day, I had to take a Morse code exam to get my license. And we used to do 12 words a minute, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's challenging to get the speed up on that. But well done on the setup today, and it visually looked well. And the codes, the concept back then was very interesting to think of what they were trying to achieve with that, given the technology constraints of the time. And obviously, the telegraph came along, and subsequently developments in wireless technology have kind of changed everything then, and made it viable for over very long distances very easily. So there may be other ham radio people involved in this today, and a lot of the hams in Galway. So I'm based in Galway. I'm actually my day job is in the university there as well, in the School of Computer Science. And yeah, a lot of the ham radio people in Galway, we have done historic. We've been involved in other things related to the Marconi sites, and particularly the one in Clifton, which we're very familiar with. The one out close to where, in fact, Alcock and Brown landed the plane that came across the Atlantic as well, the first transatlantic crossing. And we've had some associations over the years with different members, even of the Marconi family, that have came for various events in the Clifton area. So very happy to participate in a small way with this today, Ken, and well done to everyone involved.
Thanks so much, Des. Really appreciate that, and greetings to you here from Echo India 2 Alpha Hotel.
FB, fine business.
7-3, Ray. Well done.
Yeah, at the age of 91, he can still do more, a lot faster than me. So we have Karen Lach there from Austria. Karen, delighted to see you there coming in from Austria. If you'd like to say a few words to us, you are more than welcome. I've made it viable there for you if you wish to unmute your workstation or device. If you're able to speak, you are very welcome. And if anybody else, great, is that you, Karen?
Yes, it is. So I'm enjoying this so much, and you're doing such a great thing here. Yeah, fantastic.
Well, it's great to hear you. What part of Austria are you in? Can you tell us?
Oh, I'm in Vienna, and yeah, I'm a librarian, and part of our library covers Irish studies, and obviously there's a Mariah Edgeworth interest. And also the science part is quite exciting.
Excellent, excellent. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here with us, and we hope to have contact with you further. And you might have a look at the Maria Edgeworth Centre website as well. You might find that quite interesting, given that you're from the library background there. So thank you so much, Karen, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. If anybody else would like to say a word, just put a thumbs up. I see Miriam Al-Jamil is there as well. If you want to speak, you're more than welcome. And anybody else who would like to speak, if you just give it a thumbs up, I can enable you in the last few minutes. So not sure where you're from, Miriam. but you're welcome to our communication exercise today. I'll just give it another couple of seconds there. Just see if there's anybody else want to come in, and if not, we'll press on with the conclusions as we are approaching 3 o'clock and the start of the Premier League in England. So Arsenal is about to kick off, I gather, at 3 o'clock. So I promised Arsenal fans I'd be releasing them in time for the kickoff. I'll press on now just to our closing conclusions here. I just hand over to Matt and then to Brendan Smith and Ray Jordan to close it out. So just handing over to you, Matt, just to close off a few comments there.
Yeah, well, I'd just like to thank everybody for joining in, and we hope that you gain some knowledge from about our early communication systems here in Ireland. And just to give a plug for the Mariah Edgeworth Centre, we are fast becoming an international centre for all things Edgeworth. Only this week, we purchased and are returning to Edgeworth a John Flaxman 1780 Wedgwood medallion. And the medallion was commissioned by Joshua Wedgwood to commemorate the death of Honora Edgeworth, who was Mariah Edgeworth's first stepmother. We have purchased it from the USA, and it'll be going on display in the Mariah Edgeworth Centre. And just to say that when Wedgwood and Flaxman manufactured this medallion, there was a proof made of it, and the proof actually is on display in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. So the proof is in London, and the actual medallion will be in Edgeworthstown. So that's something. So again, thank you very much. And a big thank you to Longford County Council and the Heritage Council, because this couldn't have happened without their support. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Matt, and for all you've done in the Edgeworth, the Mariah Edgeworth Centre, which is a wonderful museum to visit and very close to the road, actually, on the last roundabout, just as you head in the Longford direction. It's very close there, so do please stop by if you get a chance. I just want to hand the second last contribution from Brendan Smith again. Shias Ignaliev, you've done so much for computer and communications and commemorating all of that. Just if you want to say a few closing words, Brendan, you're very welcome.
Yeah. Again, many thanks for that opportunity. As I said, like we love having activities like this that are pioneering or reenactments taking place here. We look at ourselves as I said, as electrical, electronic and digital hub. And I'd like to also give due recognition to 3 of my colleagues here now from the Computer Museum, Frank, Tom and Liam. They have been working on gathering all of these historical artifacts that tell the whole story, not just of Ireland in terms of communications and computing, but of the world itself. So after everybody here has a cup of tea or coffee or water, we welcome you all to visit the computer and communications inside itself. So thank you for this. And as I said, like I'm really chuffed to be part of this historical activity. So well done, Ray, and everybody that's involved in this. It's really mind-blowing. And I think there's a documentary waiting for RT to make on this as a follow-up to the history of the cable that changed the world. So go a mille magat. So thank you.
Go a mille magat, Fresh and Brendan Ignaliev. I'll hand over now finally to Ray Jordan to say a few closing remarks, please.
Thank you, Ken. Incidentally, Ken is my son, so so that accounts for that. Cordia, I would like to say what a wonderful experience this project has been for me. Wonderful in that an idea I first had in 1994 has finally come to pass. Wonderful also in the people I met along the way, and without whose enthusiastic cooperation this project could never have happened. I think that would have been a pity, because after all, Richard Lovell Edgeworth was a truly remarkable man. And I like to think what we have done honoured him by simulating his great feat of 1804 in sending a message from Dublin to Galway in 8 minutes, when, as you know, I calculated a series of horse riding would take 10 to 12 hours. My first contact was with the Mariah Edgeworth Centre, when I was rather ambitiously entered an ode in their poetry competition. Needless to say, I joined I joined the runners, but didn't hear anything further. And then I met Matt Farr, John McGurr, and Janine Roder, and they in turn introduced me to Dr. Joanna Wharton, who has kept a scholarly eye on us ever since. Thank you, Joanna, for that. I'm sure at times we did seem to wander a bit. We were encouraged along the way also by Eliza and Octavia from Tullinally Castle in Westmeath. Like the Edgeworth family, who almost 220 years ago, came together to make the event we celebrate today actually happen. Like them, my family came together to make my dream come true. I especially want to thank my nephew John, who is actually in Galway, who not only surveyed routes and made signal strength measurements, but he actually constructed the 2 semaphores we have used. I also want to mention my grandniece Joanne, who was our lovely telegrapher in Galway today. Also my cousin Gordon, who was our IMA telegrapher here in Dublin. Finally, as there always has to be someone in charge, we have my son Ken, who has managed the very complex Zoom session. And I promise faithfully, never again to ask him or our crew to do work so hard, because anything that could go wrong absolutely, positively, and definitely did go wrong from time to time. But thank God we came through, and I would like to think that Richard, if he's up there somewhere, and Maria and Francis Beaufort are happy enough. So thank you all for making this old communications engineer's dream actually come true. So, Shinjera or Clor a Gwine Ushle and you, Goramila Mahagav Goler Agus Slana Walya.
Goramila Mahagat Agus Tommy Cordunta Anish on webinar, but just as a last thing, I just want to ask the operators of semaphores to go to the semaphores, please. In Dublin and Galway, if you can, and just swing the semaphores in a silent tribute to Richard Lovell and Maria Edgeworth as we just close it off now. Just swing them there, please. Thank you all.
That's lovely.
Excellent. Thank you all.
Thank you.